Hi, everyone. It's Dawn Fisher of Morning Glory Needleworks. Welcome to my 19th FlossTube video. And of course, thank you to everybody who subscribed, commented, liked my channel. I really appreciate it. As always, any links I talk about, there's going to be quite a few things in my video are in the description of the video. Now on when I watch YouTube on my laptop, it's right below the video and there's like a description. It'll say, welcome to my 19th video. Then if you do click on show more, it'll show the all the information. What I do also is I break my video into chapters. So if you just want to come back and watch Stitch of the Month, which we're going to have one this month because it's the first, or if you want to just watch the section on my antique sampler I'm going to talk about, you can just click on the timestamp next to that and it will take you directly there. Then there's also links to Stitch of the Month Facebook page, Morning Glory Needleworks Facebook page, bio link, my Etsy shop, just all sorts of things. Plus some of the things I talk about are other interesting places I think you might enjoy visiting. So it's the 1st of October. Oh my goodness, there's so much going on. I have so much to talk about. A lot's happened since in the last, since the 15th, the last video I did. So I'm going to get going here. So for my life update, I know a lot of you may know we live in St. Petersburg, Florida. And yes, we have hurricanes, and thankfully for us, Ian moved south. It was actually headed directly for us for a time, which was very scary, but it actually moved south and pretty much missed us. We did have, we were very lucky at our house. We're in a non-flood, no evacuation zone, which when we started looking for houses, that's what I went for. Houses I liked that were in no floods, non-evacuation zones. So we did not evacuate. We did prep for it. I picked up everything in the yard and did some other hurricane prep stuff. We were very lucky. We just had a few power blips. Other than that, we never lost power. We didn't lose cable. We didn't lose internet, nothing. Some of my neighbors, even though it's been a couple of days, like just a couple of blocks over, don't have power yet. So you never know. Luckily in our neighborhood, they're actually putting in underground electric. So that's good. Our house doesn't have it, but they did just put a new electric pole. It's actually right next to our garage. They put a new pole in there. And then they're actually digging up other areas of the neighborhood and putting in underground electric, which will be great once it actually gets in. But unfortunately, you know, you've seen a lot of area south of us is devastated. It's horrible. I know some of the people in that area, a lot of stitching friends, and I feel so bad for them, you know, and our thoughts are with them. But this is like the first time in a lot of years I've actually considered moving back up to where there's snow because it's very scary. Like I said, we were lucky. We've been lucky quite a bit in this area. I have to do some more things to prep our house, like get stuff to put over the windows. We haven't done that yet. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But it's now a little higher on the list. But anyway, our thoughts are with everybody who was affected. But now I'm going to move on. So as you know, last weekend, I actually taught Grandma's Button Box. It's right up here sitting behind me. I had so much fun. It was such a wonderful group. I taught the button box 2 days in a row. It's a one-day class, but the area where they have teachers come in, this is for the Swanee Stitchers chapter of EGA, Embroiderers Guild of America. They have a wonderful, one of their members has a wonderful building. She does long arm quilting. So she has this fabulous double wide building. I want this building it's like a double wide trailer, but I want it so bad. It's huge and it's all sewing and stitching. But she has this wonderful area where people can have classes in there, but they can only fit so many at a time. So I actually taught the class 2 days in a row, and I think there was a total of 28. I know there was 28 kids. So over the 2 days, there was 28 people took the class. Some people came back more than once, and it was a wonderful time. It's a wonderful facility, and I got to stay with Karen. Thank you so much, Karen. I love her house, where she lives, her dogs. We had so much fun, and the wonderful room she let me stay in. So that's always nice. But everybody was just great, and there were some very experienced stitchers in the group, and they actually added their own personal touches. Now there is some pre-work on the kits, so I sent their kits out, or the class. I sent their kits out, but some of them didn't quite follow the directions exactly, which is okay, and it's kind of fun. Some of them, let me get the button box here so you can see. Some of them, there's the vine here on the front, this vine. That's what you have to have done before the class starts. Sorry for moving around. I got to get comfortable here again. Okay. And a lot of these people are embroiderers. They do more hand embroidery and crazy quilting, which I love. And they did different stitches for the vine. I've actually never had anybody do that before, as many times as I've taught this. So it was fun to see what else they did. One woman actually did this in feather stitch, and she kind of free-handed the leaves that are here. Another one did it in, what'd she do? It was a cable chain stitch, which was very interesting. And another woman did a chain stitch and put beads in it. So it was like a beaded chain. It was so exciting. I love to see, all the changes, and they're really making it their own. So that's great. And we also had some stitchers that were new. They never stitched on linen before. So it was a little bit of a challenge doing the cross stitching and the different stitches on linen instead of Aida or however you say it. But it was a little challenging for them, but they kept at it. And I think they learned a lot of new stitches. I hope they finish it. And I told them, feel free. I mean, I have a mistake on here. I'm not going to show it to you, but if you take the class, I'll point it out. But so everybody makes mistakes. If you use the wrong color, your stitch looks different, don't worry about it. Just no flowers. These are like flowers here. They're supposed to be like flowers. No two flowers are the same. Just do it your own way. And that's kind of my teaching. I'm a little more relaxed than a lot of teachers. I'm not real strict in my class. I just want everybody to enjoy it and be happy. So, and I was also very excited to meet Gary Sly. He owns Gary Lee Sly Fabric Arts, which is in Leesburg, Florida, which is north of here. And it's we go to Mount Dora a lot. So I'm hoping to stop there one of these days on the way up to Mount Dora, or just go up for the day anyway. But he took the class also. So I was excited to see him in the class. And his button box is turning out beautiful. He was quite a bit ahead. I can't wait to see the finished box. And I'm also excited to visit his shop. I did put a link to his website for his shop in the comments below. And he does do mail order. And he actually just, now he has some of my patterns in stock, because I had some of my samplers or my designs for sale there. So I was excited that he purchased some to have in his shop. So now the Swanee Stitchers, they're very creative, and they had a lot of items for sale. Now this building we were in, it was like basically a big double wide trailer. And it had this wonderful porch where they usually sit out there and rock, but they had all these tables set up with all this fabulous stuff for sale. I had to quit going out there because I kept finding things I wanted to buy, and I did buy quite a bit. but I wanted to go over everything I bought because it's so fabulous. I just love it. It's like, I could probably make this myself, but I'll just let them do it. And I love it so much. And one of the things I bought, these wonderful, they're little sachets. There was 3 of them in the pack. And I grabbed these because they are full of lavender, which is my favorite. They're so much prettier in person. I know you can't see them well, but they're beautiful. They smell so good. They smell like lavender and they're filled with lavender. So I got these 3 wonderful sachets. Next, I got this, which I love. This is felted wool, and this is all handmade. It's got some pretty buttons on it, and then it's got this wonderful twisted cord closure here. And if you open it up, it will hold 2 spools of pearl cotton. Of course, I'll probably put something else in it, but because it'll hold a pair of scissors or whatever also. But I just love it. If you can't see the color, it looks blue on my screen, but it's a real pretty deep teal green. So, and I love it. So, and I believe this is by the same person. I couldn't help it. This is another felted wool scissor case. I have my scissors in there, and it's lined. It's beautifully lined. Again, twisted cord, so you can put your scissors in there and tie it shut. Isn't that pretty? But what I really like is I believe they go on the tip of knitting needle guards, something along that line. She put that in here. So when you put your scissors in, they're not going to wear a hole in the bottom of the holder. And it looks really skinny, but my scissors fit in there really good. There, they fit right down inside there. And then that scissor guard, like I said, keeps it from poking through and maybe poking you. And you can just tie the top and it will keep it closed. So I also bought, I have so many things here. This, and the girl that made this was in class. I think her name is Ariel. But this is a real sweet little, it looks like a little cap to an acorn. Oops, let me put it this way. And it is beeswax. She has a friend that has bees. So it has beeswax in it, fresh beeswax that you can run your threads through to strengthen them or keep them from twisting. So also I told you I bought a lot of stuff, but you don't see this stuff, and the prices were so reasonable. And this is packaged in this wonderful little box with little confetti stuff here, which I have all over the place now. And and she makes these by hand. I'm sorry, I don't know the woman's name, but I love them so much. These are actual scallop shells, real scallop shells. And she glued a couple little shells on there. And then on the inside here, this is velvet, but what she's filled it with is emery, which can sharpen and clean your needles. Needles ever get like black and icky, you can run them in emery and it will take the black off. And it actually comes with a couple of pointer pins here, which are lovely. Got sparkly things on them. I don't know if you can see that, but I just think this is great. Again, I couldn't resist. Sally Criswell's quite the salesperson. She talked me into a lot of this stuff. Not that it took that much to convince me to buy it, but people were buying my stuff, so I was buying their stuff. So another thing, I believe, again, it's by the same person. Obviously, we have a lot of the same taste, but this wonderful little felted wool box with threads I was using it with threads hanging off of it. I don't know if you can see the detail. It reminds me of the shaker boxes with the overlapping stitches here. And then the little flowers on top, all the work that went into this. For what these cost, it's not worth my time. Although I love doing it, but my finishing would not be near this wonderful. But it's got this wonderful pin cushion on the top. And inside, I actually have some threads in here because I was working on a project. Jeffrey was getting chemo and I was sitting with him at the doctor's office where he had to be there for about 2.5, 3 hours. So I just sat there and I brought my stitching with me. course, it now has cat hairs on it. Imagine that. But anyway, that was another wonderful, I couldn't pass it up, box. And now this is my favorite thing of all. This is my magic wand. Isn't this wonderful? And it's got all these kind of like Pandora beads, only not the really fancy, expensive ones, but they're hair on it. But it's like on a long screw, and it has this wonderful knob on the top. And it's fairly heavy, but not outrageous. She had a longer one, but it was like too heavy. But while I was teaching, and of course I use PowerPoint and I have a projector screen, and I kept pointing, and I was using an ink pen to point. And I went out and they had these for sale, and I went, ooh, this is my new pointer. So when I'm teaching, I can use this to point. And if you don't behave in class, yes, behave yourself. But anyway, it was really kind of cool because of the projector, light from the projector, when I put this up by the screen, all these little sparkly things would come off of it. But anyway, I mean, that through the light, through the prism. But isn't that beautiful? It's really pretty. It's got all sorts of sparkly and all my favorite colors on it. So all in all, I had so much fun, obviously. I can't wait to teach for them again. They're hoping to have me back. I know there's a few projects that at least Betsy wants me to come teach, and she's trying to talk everybody else into it. So I'm hoping I can come back. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. It was a wonderful time. It was about a little over 3 hour drive there. Of course, it was worse on the way there because it was a weeknight. I got started late. But anyway, so that was my wonderful weekend, and all my beautiful new little toys and goodies that I now have to play with. I love stuff. So anyway, that's enough of that with my wonderful time. Thank you to Swanee Stitcher's chapter of EGA. Also, if I'm telling you, you need to join EGA. I've got something else that was from EGA that I wanted to talk about. It's Embroiderers Guild of America. I don't have the link on there, but if you search for, I think it's egausa.org or something. If you search for it, they have a lot of classes. They have online classes. They have like I'm going to talk about a lecture that I got to listen to for free as a member of EGA. And if there isn't a local chapter by you, there's two. There's one that's an hour north of me and one chapter that's an hour south of me. I'm hoping to join at least one of them now that I'm retired and I don't have to worry about driving there or leaving work or whatever to drive. I'm hoping to join one. But right now I'm a member of what is Cyber Stitchers. They have members at large where you're not really a member of any group. But with Cyber Stitchers, you're a member of the group and you get all the benefits of the EGA. They have, they do group correspondence courses like a regular chapter would do. They bring in teachers. It's all done over Zoom because there's people from all over the world that belong to this chapter. I know there's a member in France. I can't remember where some of the other members are, but it's based out of the Tennessee Valley region. But I'm in Florida and I'm a member of it because when I joined, there was no chapter close to me that I could go to. So again, I highly recommend joining EGA if you love needlework as much as I do. And it says Embroiderers Guild, but they do anything with a threaded needle. They do crewel, they do counted thread, they do needlepoint, counted canvas, gold work. And I've tried every one of those things. I always stick with the counted thread, but I just love that I can try other classes. Okay, that's my sales pitch for EGA. Anyway, so in the last few FlossTubes, I've talked about a new project that I've been working on. I'm very excited about it. Well, I have finished stitching it. Now I just have to get the instructions written. Of course, when you stitch things and try new stitches, you go, well, that didn't quite work. So I'm going to have to, revise my chart. I change colors. I revised my instructions. I'm drawing, all my instructions have little lines drawn all over them. But meanwhile, here is the finished piece. Again, I'm not really going to talk about exactly what it is. It has lots and lots and lots and lots of stitches. If you like new stitches, this is perfect for you. This is worked on 28 count cream cashel linen. I use the sulky 12 weight threads. I actually have a bag of them sitting here because these are my favorite colors. These you can use, you'll be able to use DMC floss or whatever your favorite thread is. But anyway, once it's ready for sale, once I get done with the pattern and get it ready, because it's still got a little bit of work. It's got to be done for it. I'll explain the design, what, how many stitches there are, what they are, all that good stuff. And maybe by next time, maybe by my next FlossTube, I'll have it up on my Etsy site and ready for sale. But I was so excited because I got it done and it was a lot of fun, even though I had started it and then stopped and actually started it over again. That's the fun of designing, but it's just enjoyable. And I think, I'm hoping that you will enjoy it once I explain how the whole design works. So next, yay, it's the 1st of October. So it's time for the October stitch of the month. And for this month, it is, let me get my page here. I have stuff piled everywhere. We are doing bound Scotch, which is a real fun stitch. So I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint like I always do, and I will show on the PowerPoint, go over the stitch, how it works. Here's how it looks on the chart. Here's the chart. I've added it at the bottom here. And what's I going to say? Sorry, brain dead, but yeah, there's been a lot going on. But anyway, okay, so I'm going to show it on PowerPoint. Then I will demonstrate the stitch like I always do. And these will be available as PDFs, as always, on the Facebook Stitch of the Month group. Now, if you're not a member yet, be sure to join. All the previous PDFs of all the different stitches that I've taught so far are on that website. There's a PDF for each. There'll be 10 stitches now on there. And this also lists, and this pattern, the sampler pattern, which has 2 more stitches to go, November and December. I have no idea what I'm going to do yet, since I just decided on this like yesterday. So, but anyway, if you join the group, these are on there for free, and you can download them. They'll be in the files. So first thing I'm going to do is do the PowerPoint, and then I will demonstrate the stitch. So hang on, and I'll be right back. So here we have it. This is a very large blow up of the stitch diagram. I did it in 2 different colors. It's fun to do this in 2 different colors. I did it in the petal pink and the spring garden, which is a real pretty overdyed thread. You can use whatever colors you want. Again, these are sulky threads. And then I give on the pattern itself, I give suggested DMC colors, but you can use whatever you want. I also give the sulky colors. So this stitch is done in 2 steps. So what I did the petal pink, that's the white stitches first, and you work your white stitches, which are red on the chart, or the dark pink, and you work all of those all the way across the chart. So it's on this one, it's 24 stitches wide. The sampler is actually 25 stitches wide, but because these are an even number, you're going to be short like 2 threads at the end. So this row is only, as the stars were, the row of stars above it were also only 24 stitches or 48 threads wide. Anyway, so first you're going to, from the outer edge of the sampler, you're going to count down 4 threads. So each of these rows on the sampler is 2 or 4 threads apart. I think on this one, I accidentally put it 2 threads, but anyway, it is 4 threads below the stars. So you would count down 4 threads, to, and that would be the top of this row, and then count down another 4 threads, and then in 1 thread to the right for step 1. You can see on the diagram when you look at it, your first step is actually on the inside, and you're going to work your way out. So you're going to go over 1 joining of the threads, 1 overlap over 1 thread for 1, 2, and then the next one is over 2 threads, like a half of a cross stitch, 3, 4, and then 5, 6 is 1 bigger, 7, 8 is 1 bigger, and then you're going to start getting smaller. So they're going to be square in the corner. And then from 13, 14, which is the last step, again, I'm going to demonstrate this. You go straight down and 1 thread to the left for 15, or excuse me, 1 thread to the right. Sorry about that. Follow the directions, not what I say. So, and you're going to do another block just like that. That's actually a Scotch stitch. So you're going to do another block like that, and that will be through step 27, 28. Then you're going to work these all the way across the row. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. You can see across the top of the screen here, that shows the actual bottom of the chart, or this row on your chart for the sampler. So that's how many of the pink, I use pink again, that you work, the white stitches. Then when you're done with that, so the stitch on the left shows how to do the base stitch, and the stitch on the right shows the completed stitches with the gray stitches over top. And all these stitches you can see in the chart are going to touch. They're going to share holes. And so once you have all your base stitches done, then you're going to come back and do your top layer, which is angled in the opposite direction. So your stitches are going to overlap at an angle, and you'll see that once I stitch them. So you're going to come up 2 threads below what would have been step 2 on your first block of stitches for step A, and then you're going to go down at B, which is 2 threads over from what would have been step 14. And then you're going to continue and get larger and larger until you get to steps G and H, which is the corner, which will make it 8 threads high and 8 threads wide. That's how big these stitches are. They're over 8 threads. Each of the small blocks is over 4 threads wide, 4 threads high. Then the other, the overlying threads, which are the bound part, are over 8 threads. They're a total of 8 threads wide at the widest point. They're 8 threads across and 8 threads up for step GH, but you can see how they cover that center part, and it's a beautiful stitch. It looks really nice. I will show you my sample, which I have sitting here once I come back, and then I will show you how the stitch works. I will demonstrate it. So let's go to the demonstration, and then you'll be able to see how the stitch actually works. So the first thing, this is my sampler. Again, I have this huge, I found this huge long scrap of, I think it's 28 count linen, I don't know. But I work this, I'll show it on the camera, my little camera I use for demonstration. But this is what my row looks like. So you can see the 2 different colors and how they work together. So now I'm going to change over to my camera so you can see this up close and personal. Okay, so now let me put this here. Let me move it up. Let me focus it a little bit. There you go. So now you can kind of see how they're layered. I use the bright pink, and then this other, it's called Spring Garden. It's hard to see, but it goes from like white to pale pink to green, pale green to pale yellow to pale blue. It's a beautiful thread. I just love it. It's very springy and gardeny, spring garden. It reminds me of Easter or something. So what I'm going to do, make sure I don't knock this over. I'm going to demonstrate. Oh no, I didn't thread a needle. So I'm going to demonstrate each step of the stitch so you can see how it comes together. So usually I'm a little more organized here. I've been kind of running around a lot the last couple of days. I went to the grocery store today and the shelves are still pretty empty, but I got the basic stuff we needed. So again, I feel extremely lucky that our area was spared all that tragedy. So, okay. So I have one needle threaded. I'll have to thread another one in a minute. So figure out where I'm at here. Where my camera's at. I'm just tying a big knot so I can come up. Okay, so my diagram here so I can make sure I'm following it the same way you will follow it. So I'm going to pretend like this is, I'm going to start up here. So I've counted down 4 threads and then down 4 more threads, 4 threads from the star and then 4 more threads. I think I'll start right here. So this would be step 1. I'm coming up at step 1 and then I've gone in 1 thread. So this would be the edge of your sampler over here. So I've come back to the right 1 thread. I have a big knot. Boy, I'm not doing very good today. So the first step is I'm going to go over just 1 thread over this 1 corner here. So that's step 1, 2. Then I'm going to move over 1 thread to the right and 1 thread up. 3, 4. 1 thread to the right. 1 thread up. That's 5, 6. Now here's 1 thread over and 1 thread up, and that's step 7, 8. So now the entire block is over. I've gotten as big as it needs to get. It's 4 threads high. So now I'm going to start moving in. So on this side, I'm going to go 1 thread up, and on this side, the top, I'm going to go 1 thread to the right. And I'm just going to continue and go smaller and smaller until I get to the last step, which is 13, 14. So there's 7 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's my first block. So now I'm going to count down 4 threads from the bottom of here, bottom right corner, and in 1 thread again. So I'm going to go over 1 thread. I'm going to do another stitch exactly like this one. 3, 4. Actually, what does it count on this? This is 19, 20. I'm just following my own diagram. And I'm just going to, once you get the first one in, after that, it just works out. So there is my second stitch is complete. So there is 1, that's the left side of this diagram. So when you start your next stitch, you're going to do this section here again over here. So it's going to share holes. So your next one will be right here. And I just want you to see how when I do the top stitches, the bound part, how it works together, how they share holes. And once you get the rhythm for this and you understand the size, it's just the biggest challenge is placing the first block. After that, it all falls into place. So there's my start of my second stitch. So now I'm going to come down 4 threads and over 1 and do another stitch. And then I have to thread another needle because I forgot to do that. So there we go. I'll finish this one. Then I'll thread a needle in red so you can see the difference. And this was fun. I got to take my camera when I taught the class. It made it a lot easier to demonstrate the stitches to the people in the class so they could see how to actually work the stitch. So I love my little camera, and it's tiny and portable, and I can just throw it in my carry case with my projector and demonstrate the stitches. The room was pretty bright, so we did have to turn the lights off to demonstrate the stitches. And I use, this is really not for stitching thread. This is crochet cotton. I got it because the balls are big and cheap, and they're, it works good enough for this. Of course, your coverage is going to be better than this. So now I'm going to do the gray steps, which is the lettered steps of this stitch, which is a different color. So from step 2, I go down 2 threads here. And then from step 14, I'm going to go 2 threads to the right. And then you just continue until you get to the widest point. And you can see how this, got to untangle some threads here. I got too many threads on the bottom there. Hopefully that will help. So there's my second stitch. Now this last stitch, this next stitch is going to be, it's not the last. This next stitch is going to be the longest. Now see how I've reached the corner where these meet? And now it's going to share holes. See, I'm going into this same hole. And now I'm going to start working my corner. So I'm going to work the other direction. One to the right, and then one down. And one to the right. And then this is the last one. And there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess there's 7 stitches for this too. So that's how it covers. Now yours is going to have better coverage if you're using floss, especially if you're using like 2 strands of floss. Now I want to show how to do the next group of bound on here. So from where I went down my last stitch, or this would be step 1, 2 of this next stitch, you're going to count down 2 threads. It's actually going to share holes with step 27. And then I'm going to count over 2 threads and just finish my stitch, and see how it shares holes with these stitches here. So it's a pretty heavy stitch, but it gives a really nice effect. It's and you can do it. I have another sampler where I have this done over square 6 threads high by 6 threads wide. It just depends on what you're working on. But a lot of these could be considered counted canvas stitches, but I use them however I want. If they're fun stitches, if they're nice stitches, I use them on my linen. So that is bound Scotch, and I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you can use it. Okay, so I'm back. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, it's a fun stitch, and I hope you can find somewhere to use it. Be sure to work your little on the front side, your sampler here. That's why I did this, so you could use it in a sampler and see how they work together. So next, my most exciting thing, I'm so excited about this. I was fortunate to be included in a recent lecture by Lynn Anderson, and I'm not good at pronouncing Spanish, but it was called Este de Chado, Mexican Samplers in Early Female Education. So this lecture was offered by the Great Lakes region of EGA, again, EGA. And even though I'm not a member of the region, I contacted them and I was put on a waiting list for non-members, a member of EGA, but a non-Great Lakes region member. Luckily, I got in. I can't believe it, that I was actually fortunate enough to get into this, get in to see this lecture because I wanted to see it so bad. So I learned so much about Mexican samplers. It was over an hour and it was just wonderful. So I want to share a little information with you. If you ever get a chance to hear her speak, I know she's given this talk before and I would watch it again and again because I know you can learn something new every time. And I know she adds more stuff to it. Her research is phenomenal. So, and especially because I have a wonderful Mexican sampler, I'm so excited. I'm going to show you detailed pictures of it and discuss parts of the sampler that some of it I knew, but I learned so much. There's other things I learned and I took notes, but there's so much to absorb. I couldn't take it all in. I'm hoping she writes a book someday. I really, I would buy it in a heartbeat because Mexican samplers are so fascinating. I bought this sampler a few years ago from a antique dealer up in Mount Dora at Reniger's antique market up there. And he did not know what he had. I knew what it was. It was way up on the wall. I mean, he had to get a ladder to get it down. It was, he collected weavings and he was an expert on weaving, but he had this sampler and several others, but they were just regular samplers. And it was way up and he had to get a ladder to get it. It was way the heck up on the wall. So I had him get it down and he wasn't really sure if he wanted to because he didn't know if I was really interested. Actually, this was the second time I'd been there. It was the first time I just looked at it and I knew I didn't have the money to buy it. So, but he was telling me, oh, I think it's an English sampler. And he was going on. And I just kind of let him talk because I knew what it was. And I was so excited because I have never seen one this phenomenal. So when I came back, he told me how much it was and he did get it down for me. And I really looked at it. I had my little linen tester and magnifier and looked at it really close. And he told me how much it was. And again, tried to tell me it was an English sampler. And I just nodded my head and offered him $100 less than he was asking for it. And he agreed to it. So, yeah. So anyway, here is this. This is the way it is set up to hang. I know there's a lot of reflection, which is why I am going to, it's huge. See this? Why I'm going to show you on PowerPoint, but this is, you see why I grabbed it. And the price, I don't talk about the price of samplers, but I know what this is worth and I didn't pay, I don't know, 10% of what it's probably worth. So, but again, I'm going to show you more about this sampler. And unfortunately, there's no name, no date. I'm so disappointed. It's definitely Mexican. I actually showed it during the lecture. At the end of the lecture, she let us, there was a couple of us that had antiques, Mexican samplers, and she let us, we were allowed to hold them up and show them. So she actually said a little bit about mine or what it was. It's Mexican. And from what I learned during this lecture, I thought it was more mid to late 1800s, but it was probably more early 1800s, 1820, 1840 maybe, that this sampler was stitched. And the most amazing thing, and I think you're all going to be really shocked, this sampler, this huge, monstrous, beautiful sampler was probably stitched by a girl that was 6 or 7 years old. Yes, 6 or 7. She said usually it's pretty rare, but sometimes they did these up to age 10. But she showed a couple of samplers and one the girl had finished very similar to this before she was 6 years old. I'm just amazed and flabbergasted about that. So you can see how big this sampler is. And the frame of the sampler is about 26 inches by 17. It's very big. The linen is pretty even weave. It's 44 threads per inch vertically and horizontally. I counted it both ways. The sampler was stitched using a lot of different stitches, including long arm cross, four-sided, satin stitch, flame, Bargello stitch, Aztec stitch. We'll talk about that. Needle weaving, drawn thread, and pulled thread stitches. There's probably more, but I really haven't gone over it inch by inch. I need to do that. So next, I'm gonna, like I do, I'm gonna go to my PowerPoint and I'm gonna show pictures, and that way you can see it better than just me trying to hold this up. I have not unframed it, obviously. I don't know if I will. It's framed very nicely, so it makes me nervous to unframe them. I'm not quite sure how it's attached, but it was professionally framed. So I may just, it looks like it's in pretty good shape in the frame. So I'll probably just leave it in there. But meanwhile, I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint and then I'll show you close-up pictures of it and discuss it. So please excuse and forgive my accent when trying to pronounce some of the names of the stitches that were used. Now, Lynn said these were called, in English, it's called sampler. In Mexican, they're called dechados. So that's what I'm going to call this. It's not a sampler, it's a Mexican dechado. And this one, again, is undated and unsigned. So she actually talked about each of the steps the girls had to go through to create this sampler, their samplers. Now, this looks like it's in 3 sections, but I looked up at the hem stitch, and it is one large piece of fabric. She just divided it into 3 different sections. And this was very common. Sometimes they did long, skinny samplers. Sometimes they did piece them together. But this was actually one piece of linen. So the first thing the girls had to do was take this white cloth, this sample or fabric linen cloth, and make, I'm going to slaughter these words. It's dobladillo de ojo, maybe, or what kind of translates to hem with holes or eyes. So there had to be openings. Like if you've done hem stitch, it makes little holes. That's when you pull the threads. It's like a pulled thread stitch. So, and then next, that was the first thing they had to do all the way around the sampler, just hem stitch it. They had no plan at that point. There was no like we work from a chart or a diagram. They just did this and were given these stitches to work. Then they had to do what lomillo, which is cross stitch or long arm cross stitch around the edge, and then the motifs or dibujos. Sorry if I'm saying swear words while I'm trying to do this. I'm really sorry. So maybe I need to take Spanish. So which is motifs. You can see this sampler has some motifs off to the side, or one of the sections has motifs in it. So they had to do those also in cross stitch or long arm cross stitch. So in other required sections were done in labrados and blanco or white work, which I will show you that as we get to these sections. And there were often areas of punto atrás or back stitch, which is not double running stitch, but they actually did it in back stitch. It may look like double running, like the black work you see, but it is, she said on the ones that they have seen the back of, they are done in back stitch. They are not done reversible double running stitch. Another required stitch was calado or drawn work, which we know as Aztec stitch. And nobody's sure where the name Aztec stitch came from, as these stitches had nothing to do with Aztecs. So the correct name is calado. Again, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but that's the name of the stitch. And you're going to see all of these stitches as I show you close-up pictures of the sampler. So unfortunately, this sampler is actually, as much as there is on it, it's not completely finished. And there's several sections with the threads removed or drawn, but the areas were not stitched. So I'll point those out when we get to that. So here on this, you can see the it shows numerous examples of the calados or Aztec stitch, which is only seen on Mexican samplers. And then on the right, I've zoomed in and you can see a closer view of the Aztec stitch along with the bands above it, which are done in the satin stitch, which we discussed. Also, above that is, I believe, oh, I think it's in the next slide as I'm reading ahead of myself here. I have this written down so I don't forget. So anyway, but this, like I said, this sampler is amazing. If you've not seen Aztec stitch or the calados, look it up online so you can really see it up close. I've done it. I've done some little samples of it. I would love to reproduce this sampler, but this is a lot. So this may be my next huge project now that I have Sari outfield done. So anyway, let me go to the next screen. Okay, so this shows a closer view of the satin stitch bands. And then right at the top, it's hard to see if you have a large screen. You can see some of the punto atrás or back stitch. So that is, that's across the top there. You can also see the hem stitching at the very top edge. You can see the little holes where the hem stitching is. You can see some satin stitches. There's some other stitches as you work your way down in between the satin stitch bands. There's some other, looks like maybe herringbone or also almost a feather stitch. Like I said, I really need to sit down. I may have to unframe it to figure out what these stitches are. But as you can see, this is just a fabulous sampler. And it shows, this picture also shows a closer view of what we call the Aztec stitch. So on the right of this picture, down in the section here, it's upside down. I will tell you this sampler, I don't know if you noticed on the first picture, but the alphabet is going a different direction than all the little motifs on the side. I think they have it framed. It was framed with the alphabet actually upside down. Now down in the picture on the right, you can see there's a couple of initials, but she did not sign her name. These were usually signed. Usually they had their full name, the year, maybe the school where they took, where they learned to teach this. Sometimes they were taught by nuns, often taught by nuns in convents. But you could see the beautiful areas of the drawn needle weaving and drawn thread. And again, I am not an expert on needle weaving. I have done most of the techniques or a lot of the techniques she used in this, but I'm certainly not an expert, but it's just fabulous, the sampler. And then she has stitching between each section of the drawn thread. And if you don't know the difference between drawn thread and pulled thread is where you actually draw the threads out or remove them. You cut and actually pull some of the threads out. Now, pulled thread is where you're stitching on linen and you pull your stitches tight so they create openings to make it look like lace. So that's the difference between drawn thread and pulled thread, if you ever hear that. And you can also see the beautiful section. She has one section down here at the bottom of the larger picture, the close-up of a flame or bargello or whatever you want to call, whatever you call that stitch. Everybody calls it something different. Now this section, this is on the other side of the sampler. So this is how it is framed upright with this fabulous, all these motifs on the left-hand side here, or depending on which way you have it going. But this is with them upright. You can see there's a couple up at the top right dancing. There's grapevine leaves. There's a crazy bunny. I have a close-up of him later in there. There's a lot of different stitches. There's a lot of the flame stitches on the large picture I have on the right. You can see a lot of the flame stitches or Bargello on the top of this that she's worked. There's also a large area, and this is, you can see this is drawn thread. She has actually withdrawn threads. So here you can see where the threads have been removed. And in this area, she would have worked the calado or the Aztec stitch over top of that area, or she could have done the other, the white work, the white work stitch there also. So this is, I wish you would have been able to finish this because that's a large unfinished area, but you can also see if you look closely, if you have a large enough screen or zoom in, I don't know how that works if you're watching on your phone or tablet, but she finished the edge. You have to finish the edge all the way around the drawn work area, because otherwise the threads will pull out all the way. So here's another, a closer picture of the motifs. Trying to find the word for the motifs again. I had to write all this stuff down because I don't remember all this information that I, okay, Lo Mio was a cross stitch or long arm cross, and the motifs were called dibujos. I don't know. I can't pronounce it. I'm so sorry. It's Dibujos. I'm going to have to listen to this and learn how to say these words. But anyway, this is a close-up. You can see a little fountain here. It looks like with some birds on it. The beautiful flame stitch. You can see also on the left, there's another section where she had removed some threads. And you can see here too also how she finished the edges on that too. So that when she cut the threads and withdrew them, they would not totally unravel the whole sampler. You can see also there's some damage. There is a hole above the little man sitting in his chair. I think all these motifs mean something, but I need to do some more research. She talked about a few of the motifs, but that weren't common on these samplers. But this sampler doesn't seem to have the motifs that she talked about. So this is my final slide for this, but here's another close-up of my little dancing couple. Up there at the top, there's a heart with an arrow and keys. And again, there's an N and what looks like maybe a C or something where maybe her name would have gone. And then there's a grapevine and wreaths, but you can see it's not finished. There should be some of the motifs are not finished. But I love the bunny, the wild-eyed, crazy looking bunny there with this big red eye, and he's been back stitched all the way around. And then if you look closely below him, you can tell that that is long arm cross stitch. What he's standing on, the area is actually long arm cross. I do have another Mexican sampler, but it's much later and nowhere near the quality. It's stitched on a much rougher fabric using wool. And that's kind of when the sampler age for the Mexican sampler started to go downhill. It's a beautiful sampler, very bright, vibrant colors because it was stitched using wool, which did not fade. She also talked about some of the dyes they used and that, like I said, if you ever get a chance, please listen to her talk about these samplers. But anyway, the other one is in much worse shape, but the entire sampler is worked in long arm cross stitch, and it's even hemmed using long arm cross stitch. So it's very interesting. It's a lovely sampler for what it is. It's kind of damaged and stuff, but there you have it. That's some close up. And I just had to share. I can't give you her whole lecture. For one thing, I did not record it. And I don't remember everything she said. But I just wanted, after hearing that talk, I really wanted to dig into this sampler more and look at it and share it with you and talk about it more. So there you have it. And if you have any comments or anything, I would love to hear from you. So again, that's my beautiful sampler. And if you do a Google search, when I was writing my blurb, what I was going to say, you do a Google search, I just typed in Mexican needlework sampler, and like so many links came up. I added a few links in the comments or description section, whatever it's called, below the video. And I added some links to like 3 different websites, but there's so many. I would definitely check them out if you're interested. And if you know of any, please share them in the comments. I need to just make a folder on my internet just for Mexican samplers, so I can go back and find out more. And I'm hoping to be able to. I'd love to reproduce this, but this is major. That's such a huge, complicated sampler. And like I said, I have done some Aztec stitch, but it can be challenging, especially that much of it. And it's anyway, I love it. And that's probably one of my favorite samplers of all time that I bought. That's like my treasure, one of my treasures. So that is it for FlossTube 19. Again, thank you to everyone who's liked, subscribed. I just had somebody else join Stitch of the Month today. So please join and be sure to subscribe to be notified. I try and talk about an antique sampler every time. On the first of every month, I do the Stitch of the Month. And if you're working the Stitch of the Month, or if you use it in one of your designs or something you're stitching, please share it. If you join the Stitch of the Month group, please sure to share it to that page. I do have to approve any posts because I've seen some pretty obscene things come up on some of the pages I belong to, that people or groups that I belong to that don't have people that administer that or that do that, because, well, it's a lot of work. But anyway, so be sure to share your what you're stitching, not just anything of mine, anything you're working on, and let me know what stitches you want to learn. If I ever get the Aztec stitch down, like I said, I've done it. I may do that as Stitch of the Month in a couple of years when I get that. When I get a little better at it. It's always scary when you have to cut out and remove threads. I've done that on other ones, but it's always scary. So again, all the links are posted below. And that's it. I've talked enough, but thank you again for watching. And I will see you on the 15th with who knows what I'm going to talk about. But thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.